And the point, though, is that these books, the way they're framed, the way the ancestral stories are framed, is different from the way the stories are framed for a general audience and increasingly an international audience, an audience who is not interested in the same things African American genealogy tourists are interested in when they go to these plantations. So now I'll just briefly share with you um, the three things, and maybe that's something I could share the slide, but not necessarily. I will later if you want me to. I will share with you three really cool things that I found take place in the Black genealogy books, no matter the size of the book. And even it turns out, no matter whether the publisher is a commercial publisher or an academic publisher or the independent and family publishers, those are the ones that are really near and dear to my heart. Of course, we all know Alex Haley's roots. We all know that while that book was written for descendants, it's very much written for a mass audience. And so a lot of the books are like that. You probably know Jubilee, etc., Proud Shoes. There are so many that have a national profile, but the ones that we publish independently in small press runs for our own families, for our descendants, those are the ones that really touch my heart. But again, they all do these three things. So the three things that Black family heritage books do, number one, make heroes of the ancestors. Um, no matter if they're heroes in a big way, a little way, in commerce, in military, in church, founding, or piety in general, in educational institution founding, all kinds of ways that people are heroes for going to work every day, for being married for 50 years, all those kinds of things that people do, ways that people can be said to walk with God, if you will. That is the primary thing that is there. So that's the heroizing the ancestors. And then there is reading the record through that hero lens. And that's the part that's really different from the framing that happens other places. We give an example. Maybe I'll give this example that I just heard. I know you guys know, or at least many or most of you know, the scholar um, Carr, in class with Carr. What's his first name? Greg Carr. So just this weekend, he was talking about a new Emmett Till memorial. So in public memory, of course, and that's what plantations are too, there are two basic stories. One, or I should say, when people of African descent go to public memorials, we are looking for one of two stories. If we're going as a genealogy tourist, we're looking for that heroic ancestor story that I just spoke of. If we're going as a cultural critic, if you will, we're looking to make sure that all the horrible stuff that has been done to Black people is properly documented and is not, shall we say, sugar-coated, so that other people, not so that we can know, because we already know, but so that other people can get a taste of what it's like. So he was critiquing this Emmett Till memorial and putting it in the same vein as the lynching memorial in Alabama. And they're in the same category of telling the horror story. And that is, again, one of the stories, but there's a question of who's it for and how much. And he was actually criticizing how much of that victimhood and horror do we need to consume? Um, we know it and we get the big picture, and we are enlightened by interesting stories along the way, particularly the ones that are in our families, and they do show up in our family heritage books. If your great uncle so-and-so was lynched, it's in the book, typically speaking, that sort of thing. But um, so the plantation or the general audience framing might say something like, oh, so and so was forced to work such and the law said he couldn't read and write and such and such. But when it's written in the family heritage book, it might say those things, but then it would also say, but this particular ancestor did learn to read and write, or this particular ancestor uh, wasn't as confined, but was led by God, was able to carry out his mission for the Lord despite the law. That's basically what these books say. So reading the record through that hero lens says you find all the ways that the person, um, I hate to say is human, because I don't even like that, this concept of dehumanizing that sort of thing, but just the quotidian, everyday, beautiful lives people live. That's what's depicted, even if it's in a very skeletal form. And then the final step, after you read the record through that lens, again, not the lens of uh, life is horrible and white people made it that way in America. If you read the lens through, if you read the records through the lens of my ancestors rock and let me find the myriad ways how, those are the stories that come out. And then that third step is you feel, you can read between the lines that people actually do arrive at a state of positive ancestral self-identity. And that's what we want for everyone, so that you um, honor your heritage and know that there are connections between that wonderful stuff you found in your ancestry and yourself, so that you then see the wonderfulness in yourself. It could be a particular characteristic or interest that you have in common with an ancestor. It could be the way you carry out a value that they clearly stated and lived out. So yeah, people talk about their own identities, their own lives in connection with the positivity they draw from the ancestors. And that's what I call the positive ancestral self-identity. So that's what studying these books as a genre did for me. It let me know these three things these books do, and it spurred me to want to help all of us get the benefit. We talked before about